Watching Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Senate hearing, it was quite a scene. Wow. They were really going at it. But through the shouting, I was trying to listen to what they were saying. And on the one hand, I can understand the concerns. The firing of CDC Director Susan Monterez and the mass resignations that followed, they're alarming. Public health agencies thrive on stability and expertise. And seeing that kind of turmoil raises legitimate questions about leadership and continuity. I can also see why Democrats and some Republicans are worried. The abrupt cancellation of $500 million in mRNA vaccine research, stacking vaccine panels with skeptical voices, and contradicting previous positions on COVID vaccines, it all feels like a roller coaster of uncertainty in the medical community. People who rely on these agencies for guidance, they want clear, consistent information, not political drama, and that's what we've been getting. But then there's another side to consider. Kennedy repeatedly said he wants to restore gold standard science and put patients at the center of healthcare. The White House backed him, saying he's addressing root causes of chronic diseases and emphasizing transparency. There's a case to be made for questioning the system, for sure, for pushing back against bureaucracy and for making sure the public has access to the best information available. Encouragement to make informed choices, investment in research, and the right to weigh risks and benefits. That's what a patient-centered approach should look like. I think Kennedy wants to make America healthy again, but his anti-vaccination stance is concerning. For me, I want all of the information. I want the encouragement to make healthy choices for myself and my family. I want science and data presented clearly, but I do not want the government mandating what goes into my body or my children's bodies. Mandates remove personal judgment, parental responsibility, and the nuance that comes with the individual circumstances that life brings us. And medicine is never one size fits all. For me, the moment public health tips become enforced orders, I feel like trusted roads and questions about choice and consent start outweighing the actual health guidance. I feel like if they give us their best advice and that advice is sound, we'll follow it. But when they say you have to do this, it just puts people on guard. So after weighing the pros and cons, the upheaval at the CDC, the criticism from Congress, Kennedy's track record, and the arguments for patient empowerment, here's where I land. I want the guidance, I want the research, and the encouragement to make the healthiest decisions possible. But I want it without mandates. I want freedom to decide for myself. I want freedom to decide for my children, my family, informed by the best science available, but ultimately my choice. That balance, information plus autonomy, that's what I'm looking for. This was RFK's opening statement.
We are the sickest country in the world. 76.4% of Americans now have a chronic disease. This is stunning. 8 out of 10 of our kids cannot qualify for military service. This is a national security issue. When my uncle was president, we spent zero on chronic disease. Today, we spend $1.3 trillion. It's the biggest cause. It's increasing. And all of the arguments that Republicans and Democrats have about single-payer, Obamacare, or with the various ways of allocate the health dollars, they're all like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yeah, see, I think Kennedy and these stats are scary, and I think he's right on. The chronic disease going way up decade after decade. What's that about? I think that's about the food we're eating. I think that's about processed food, getting away from food off the farm. I think we need to do something about that. We should pay attention to that. It feels like we're poisoning ourselves, poisoning our kids. But that's a very different story from vaccinations. Here's RFK's first confrontation.
Senator, you've sat in that chair for how long? 20, 25 years, while the chronic disease in our children went up to 76%. And you said nothing. You never asked the question why it's happening. Why is this happening? Today, for the first time in 20 years, we learned that infant mortality has increased in our country. It's not because I came in here. It's because of what happened during the Biden administration that we're going to end.
See, this should not be about politics at all. I mean, Republicans and Democrats should all be about making America healthy and doing whatever we can. And when you compare what's going on in America to other countries, we're in bad shape. We really are. We're in bad shape. So why aren't these folks coming together? That concerns me. I don't know. Are politicians not passing tough laws because they're getting donations from the food companies, from big pharma? I think they are getting money in donations from big pharma and the food companies. I hate to think that they might actually be willing to let our country be poisoned through terrible food for why for 20 years wasn't that senator doing anything about this? Why is he only upset now? Is he only upset now because RFK is in the seat?
When they did what they did, I thought it was a beautiful ceremony. I thought it was very, very impressive. But I understood the reason they were doing it, and they were hoping I was watching, and I was watching.
That's Donald Trump on something different. Sorry, that was my fault.
We're going to make it clear, evidence-based, and trustworthy for the first time in history. For most, right now, when I was a kid, I got 3 vaccines. I was fully compliant. Today's children have to get between 69 and 92 vaccines in order to be fully compliant.
Is that accurate? We now have to get between 69 and 92 vaccines to be fully compliant. I don't remember doing that when I was a kid. Of course, I'm closer to Kennedy's age than kids today. I don't remember doing that with my own kids. I know they got vaccinated. I know there was a number of them, maybe a dozen, something like that. Laura, are you in that role yet? Are you getting your kids vaccinated? Are they getting between 69 and 92 vaccinations to be compliant?
To be fair, my son is not even 2 yet, but no, he's not gotten that many.
Yeah, I remember a handful of them. That sounds like a massive number. And this is what I mean. Like you hear Kennedy say one thing, you hear the senators say something else. And what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to read all of the medical journals, all of the information that comes out? We're supposed to be able to look up to our medical community and look up to our political elected officials and get guidance. But it feels like the more they talk, the more of these kind of hearings we watch, the more confusing it all becomes. And I don't know where to turn. I really don't.
Would you accept the fact that 1 million Americans died from COVID?
I don't know how many died.
You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID?
I don't think anybody knows that because there was so much data chaos coming out of the CDC, and there was so many perverse incentives. And these are model
You don't know the answer of how many Americans died from COVID. This is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Do you think the vaccine did anything to prevent additional deaths?
Again, I would like to see the data and talk about the data.
You have had this job for 8 months, and you don't know the data about whether the vaccine saved
and
lives?
that's the problem, is that they didn't have the data. The data by the Biden administration absolutely dismal.
See, I think this is where the real rub is. I think RFK really was against COVID vaccines. He was against mandates for COVID vaccines. He felt like people were making a lot of money off of COVID vaccines, and he went out there and exposed this. I think that the politicians are upset about this, but for him to say COVID vaccines maybe did not work right is very different from polio vaccines and whooping cough vaccines and measles vaccines, because the medical science is there on those. Those work. They wiped out polio and whooping cough and the measles. They were gone. You can argue about COVID if you want, but I don't think you can argue about these other things.